You're listening to the Ask Drone U podcast. You ask, we answer your drone questions. Whether you're here to turn your passion into profit or you simply fly for fun, we're a community of learners and teachers who aspire to achieve greatness. We are
Drone U.
Welcome everyone to another awesome episode of Ask Drone U. My name is Paul.
And I'm Rob, and you're listening to episode number 321, and that's actually 421. I don't know where I came up with 321.
Must have had something good at lunch there, Rob.
Yeah, I actually did have something good at lunch. And anyways, thank you for being with us. We are really glad that you've chosen to hang out with us today.
I get the feeling that maybe you didn't have something really good at lunch.
That actually was. I just don't think anybody cares. So,
anyway, welcome guys. Thank you again for the questions. If you have a question, go to askdroneu.com. Upload that question. If you're not a member of the Drone U community, I'm not sure why not. Definitely should be a part of that if you want to be one of the best. Anyway, let's get right into today's question. This is going to be a good one. We're going to be talking about business contracts today. They are so important. We're going to be sharing some secrets with you. I haven't seen any of these elsewhere on the internet, and there sure are a lot of people selling 107 stuff now. I mean, they're just popping up everywhere. Even Udemy, it's like crazy. But
yeah, I mean, it's an opportunity. And
it is.
So you're going to get a lot of people out there trying to take advantage of it. And you know what? It's America. Good for everyone that's trying.
America.
It's America.
America. Let's go to the question.
Hey guys, this is Rick from Las Vegas, Nevada. Currently, I'm on an extended road trip in the East, and who knows, maybe I'll get to see you guys as I'm passing through Albuquerque next month on my way home. I really enjoy watching your podcast, and I find them really informative. I think yours is the best for those operating their own drone business. Having taken early retirement, I'm now about to start an aerial photography business with a planned emphasis on the real estate, wedding, and action sports markets. There are other possibilities as well. So with that in mind, I'm calling to ask, what are your thoughts you could offer an aerial photography business to come up with a viable contract for our clients? Especially share with us some of what might be the less obvious specifics that you would suggest be part of that contract. Hopefully we'll be hearing from you soon on this subject, and I want to thank you so much for your help.
Wow. The best for anyone who owns a drone business. That's a compliment, Rob.
Yeah, definitely. We very much appreciate that. There are a lot of options. Like you said, there's a lot of people out there entering the space now, and we just want to keep helping people. Just keep helping.
You know what? We're here because we love to fly. We want to progress the industry, and we want to do so through safety and responsibility. I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah, definitely. And it's such a great community to be a part of. If you're not a part of it, check it out. It's a really inexpensive effort to just give it a try and see what you think.
Definitely. Let's get right into contracts. Rob, you are the businessman.
Uh-oh.
You've got some businesses outside of Drone U, right?
We do a little something. Something. Yeah.
I'm not talking about the drug dealing, by the way.
Oh, my word. He just said that live.
He doesn't do that.
There is no drug dealing.
There is no drug dealing.
Very boring.
But no, what generally contract provisions, what's really important? Come on, just give us the fundamentals, Mr. Businessman.
Mr. Businessman who doesn't deal with contracts, but that's assumed. That's awesome.
I know it's always this, hey, Rob, help me write this contract. Rob, I wrote the contract. Will you look over it?
Well, I do want to say I think it's really important that we say we are not attorneys, right? The whole disclaimer thing. And if you're going to have a contract,
can I do the disclaimer really quick?
Please.
Drone U is not an attorney or giving you tax advice. But guess what? Neither is anyone else. So anyway.
No, in all seriousness, if you're going to have a contract and you're going to rely on that contract, we're going to recommend that you have an attorney look at that contract, regardless of what we're about to talk about on this podcast.
That's right, because what's the goal of the contract?
Well, what do you mean? What's the goal of the contract?
We want to limit liability.
We want to limit liability. We want to make sure that the terms of the engagement are understood up front, so there are no surprises. Everybody knows what they're getting, and we want everybody to know what their responsibilities are.
Now, what about someone who's afraid to give someone a contract for a lot of money? What would you tell them?
What do you mean? I don't understand the question. Why would you be afraid? Because you're getting locked into something?
I don't know. Well, I feel like a lot of people who are new to small businesses kind of get this like writer's block as they're about to like get into a contract. It's happened to me.
In terms of how to write one? Is that what you're saying? What to include?
Yeah, what to include, what not to include. But one of the things I'll tell people is don't try to rely on vagueness or not saying something or lack thereof, so not saying anything or just omitting facts and big important things. My point here is clarity is king. You want to make sure that you and your client are on the same page, because this contract should do only one thing, which is create a mutually beneficial relationship. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's always your goal. That said, I think if you are to review some number of contracts, whether it be 10, whether it be 100, I would imagine that if you have a reasonable understanding of the two parties to the contract, you will be able to decipher who was the initiator of that contract being written.
Yeah.
Meaning it is definitely going to have a bent towards one side if it's allowed to have that bent. You know what I'm saying?
You hear what I'm saying.
You hear what I'm saying. That's right. So if Paul's writing a contract for work that he's doing, it's not about being malicious or unfair, certainly not unethical, obviously, but the reality is you're going to write a contract that sort of benefits you a little bit more, perhaps. And then, generally, if you're dealing with a competent party on the other side, it's probably going to work towards the middle, and that's okay. That's fair, but that's how negotiations go. And so, frankly, I would say if you can be the one who's originating that contract, that's a good thing.
Definitely a good thing. Oh, there's so much to talk about with contracts, especially when it comes to drone-related businesses, because there's so many things that you want to do too to limit liability. And I think what we can do is kind of go over a general purpose contract and give people an idea of what should be in that contract,
sure,
things to think about in that contract. Now, definitely, a contract can be biased, like you said, Rob. It definitely can. And the whole goal here is to just very clearly say, what are you delivering? Under what terms? For what amount of money? Can you modify those terms? Who is executing these terms? Where's the governing law? What are the terms of payment? Now, when it comes to drone stuff, a couple things. First of all, we've got to define what our objective is. That's, contracts are just very clear. It's made between person 1 and person 2. You need to make sure that person 1 and person 2 have their address in there. It's kind of important. Ways to contact them. And I've noticed a lot of companies start their contracts with the word whereas. So, for example, whereas Drone U is the owner of copyright to footage shot at blank event, a video production, in addition to original footage shot during such event. Whereas blank client desires to acquire the following licenses to display such video in its dealership showrooms and at blank shows in North America, in addition to its online and media distribution.
So sort of a summary description of what you're going to be doing for that client.
Yes, it's kind of legalese, but that's what happens.
Well, but on the other hand, I think that was relatively clear. And then later down in the contract, you probably get into more specifics about what goes into all of those elements.
No, definitely. And, I think, again, we talked about here that we are producing a video. They're going to get licensing to that video. In this particular contract, we were giving them not only the edited video itself, but also giving them the footage that we shot. So if they want to go through it and pull stills out of it, and we're very specific about that in the contract.
Right.
That they are able to do that, but they cannot repurpose the video for any other reason. So
yeah, and I think that speaks to the question that Rick had about what are some of the elements of a contract that might be specific to drones and drone footage and drone services, because frankly, a lot of the elements of a contract, you can just Google it and you're going to get the basics of making sure you name the parties, what the jurisdiction is, all of those kinds of things.
So when it comes to related to drones, there's a couple of really key important facts. Licensing of the footage, that's really important. What is the delivery means of the footage? So how are you going to deliver that footage? I think that's really, really important. Who are you granting rights to in the copyright notice? I think that's huge. Really important.
You want to have a non-assignment clause in there.
Well, you also want to say what kind of license is it. Like, I am assigning a limited license to display this video online or in media. Now, normally I charge extra for broadcast ready media because it has to be formatted a certain way. So I normally say I am providing a limited license to client blank for video production X for distribution online through all channels. And I don't charge them for individual channels. You can, but I don't do that. That being said, I'd say, okay, we're going to deliver it through Dropbox or through YouTube.
Right.
I think this is really important because some clients expect you to develop a video for them and then they're going to upload it on their YouTube page.
Right.
Some clients are not that savvy and they're just expecting you to upload it to YouTube.
Or they don't have any idea.
Or they don't have any idea, which happens more than you would think.
And as such, the more you spell those things out, the better.
That is very true. So also the payment and terms are really important, obviously, because drone pilots, one thing I always do is I charge 50% up front.
Which is really important.
It's funny because I had a producer from that shoe company say, hey, you're the only drone pilot I've ever met where I had to pay 50% up front. And I was like, oh, well, how many drone guys have you worked with? She's like, oh, like 5 or 6. I said, well, the reason I do it is because I get called so much for drone shoots.
Right.
If someone wants to say, hey, I'll hold you for 3 days, it's like, unless there's money there, I don't give a crap what you say.
Yeah.
Because money talks.
Well,
and BS walks. Rob?
That's deep. And you're right in the sense that we get calls from people and we get emails from people that say, what do I do? Because I keep getting canceled jobs at the last minute and I'm out.
And that's how you solve that problem right
Absolutely. There. And the bottom line is if they're not willing to pony up half of the money in the beginning up front,
they don't value your
they
service.
Must not be very serious about it, or they're not very serious about using your services. So that's very important, and you're worth it, and you deserve that respect, if nothing else.
Definitely. Another thing that I put in my contracts too, and I didn't do this until one of our members was telling me about it. I put in my contract any clauses about turning on devices that cause radio interference. It sounds really weird, but one time we were doing a shoot to drop a waterproof speaker out of a drone, and the Bluetooth connection from the speaker to the phone, it made it really difficult to fly the drone. So we landed the bird, brought it down, figured out it was the Bluetooth speaker, said, okay, we'll just add the music in post, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Turn the speaker off, no problem.
Yeah.
So, and we've had one customer, client, member, who went out to a golf course and had an issue. But we've had another guy who went out recently to a car dealership, and they broadcast Wi-Fi a lot out there, and they didn't turn it off, and that guy ran into a brand new car.
Oof.
So you really need to focus on eliminating or inhibiting points of interference when you're flying. So if you're flying near these areas, Wi-Fi's got to be turned off. You've got to have a section there that says, look, you are turning off points of interference, because if you interfere with the signal to control the drone and it has a flyaway, it hits someone, blah, 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 that is your fault.
Right.
The liability is on you, because I've openly said you need to turn off all points of interference. I've listed what those points are, and I've listed when I expect them to be turned off by. So if I'm showing up for a sunset shoot at 7 o'clock, I expect them to be turned off at 6:45.
Right. So essentially that's a hold harmless. You're protecting yourself against all of those elements.
So for people who don't understand what a hold harmless is, do you mind going into that really quick?
Well, I think the quick and dirty of a hold harmless is it's actually kind of a literal term as I understand it, but you're indicating that you are protected against certain events occurring, and that if those events do occur, they will not be able to hold you liable. They are going to be liable. I think that's in jest what we're talking about.
Gotcha.
One of the other things, and you've kind of flipped ahead here, that I think is important for people to talk about in their contracts is the travel, because that is an area that can get very expensive very quickly if you don't pay attention and you don't define up front who's paying for travel. That can bite you.
Definitely.
Turn a profitable job into maybe even a break-even job.
Gotcha.
So that's something to keep in mind. Make sure you spell out who's paying for every aspect of travel, and you've got per diem that you can put in there, and you want to make sure you're including all that stuff.
Yeah, are they paying for flights, hotels, the
Exactly.
food? When you're saying per diem, that means how much money can you spend on food per day?
Yeah.
So I think also too, you got to say in there, going back to licensing rights, just really quick, is that they're not transferable. You can't transfer rights to anyone. I think that's
Correct.
really important. Then you want to say, where is the governing law? And then the terms under that governing law, you normally don't see these unless it's like a higher level contract. But what are the survival of the terms in case someone passes away? Execution and production of documents. Modification of this contract, a waiver. The failure of either party to insist upon strict performance of any of these provisions of this agreement shall not be construed as a waiver of any other default or breach of the same or similar nature.
Absolutely.
Severability. It's really important, I've learned in the last few years. headings and this entire agreement. This writing contains the entire agreement and understanding of the parties, and there are no other written, oral, implied, or express terms other than as set forth in this document.
Right.
That's a really important one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everything in here is ultimately very important. One of the other things that you've done that I've taken note of, and I think is a really good idea, is you get pretty specific on what kind of footage you're going to be delivering.
Mm-hmm.
Frames per second even, whether it's 4K, 2.7K.
I never deliver 4K, like unless it's
whatever.
a high-end client.
The point is you're indicating in the contract what you will deliver.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's pretty standard. It's something that you put in the contracts.
That is correct.
Awesome.
I think we covered everything. Did we cover it all?
Let's see, is there anything else?
So fundamentals, interference, people, that's another big one. Thinking about 107, people should be under a structure or away from the drone while it's flying. You have to be at least like 25, 50 feet away. So
I think that's actually a great point, leading to the point of circumstances in which you will not fly. Be it winds being too high,
weather
provisions, just circumstantial provisions. For example, you didn't expect there to be that many people for whatever reason, and maybe that's a bad example. But the point is, you could get out there, and we've talked to some folks around the country who want us to come do some training, and we could get all the way out there, and whether it be something that happens on their end with their business or with weather, if we're not able to fly, they would still have to pay some portion of the contract because of the effort that we've gone through to get there.
And in the movies, what they do is it's like a period of time that was like upon cancellation. So also, if you're a drone pilot, if you do want to go back, like if you have like this localized rule where if the weather inhibits you from operating and you're within 30 miles of home, a rescheduled date is at no cost.
Right.
It's just provisions like that. You've got to really think that through.
Yeah, and on that point, you're not trying to be a jerk, obviously. You're just trying to create a win-win and a fair situation. And if you're put in that situation where you can't fly, absolutely you're going to want to work it out with that client and figure out a way that is good for them to get that taken care of for them.
Definitely.
Clearly.
Definitely. Wow, so much in contracts. I think that's it. I think we covered it. Do you?
I'm sure we're missing something, but those are the big points.
I would say also consider any provisions that would inhibit you from doing your job according to FAA regulations. So I would have some provision in there. It says, if your client actors of your client do anything to inhibit you to follow the rules governed by 14 CFR 107, that you immediately shut the operation down, or you're not going to be able to do it and you still expect payment, like whatever you're doing.
Right. Something else that just came to mind is...
We're just sitting here thinking boom, 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 next.
Yeah. What came to mind is that if there are things that you need that client to do, to be ready, their participation, whatever it is, I'd put that in the contract in the sense of, I don't know, maybe there's a certain car that you need for a dealership and they don't have the car available and they want to use a different car. Again, maybe some of these examples are dumb. Or there's a certain person, the actor doesn't show up. That doesn't affect whether or not you've done your part. So you want to make sure it's covered in the contract that they will do their part, whatever that is.
Definitely. Very, very, very important. Sorry, my mind is just running. As you're sitting here, I'm just thinking about all the different provisions I would put into a contract. Protect yourself, protect yourself, protect yourself. That's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah, I think ultimately that's what the attorneys would say.
And you know what? I would pay an attorney just to get a good general contract going so you can use that for client to client, have some fill-outable PDF that you can just, put clients' information, deliverables, and stuff like that. That's kind of your idea. That's what you want to go for. But you could also be like Vic Moss, who's never written a contract in his whole 30 years. I don't recommend that for most people, but I just thought I would throw that in there to give you a hook right before we ended the podcast.
Yeah, good luck reconciling that one.
There's nothing to reconcile because it's never in writing.
Well, there you go. You'll have to ask Vic about that philosophy.
Definitely. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for us today. Again, if you want to learn more about this, if you want to learn about business and how to fly really, really well, just go to thedroneu.com and become a member. That's going to do it for us today. My name is Paul.
I'm Rob.
This is Ask Drone U.